So one of the products, I mentioned the modular lift module. That is this storage system here. We store items on trays, and then those trays get stored inside the machine on shelves, if you will. That's the value to this is it's parts to picker, so a picker doesn't have to walk. It's vertical storage, so we reduce the footprint of your storage. If you're using shelving or rack to store things, we can save a lot of floor space. This is the piece of equipment we worked with on the first project with Coda Bears. They managed the data that was necessary within Epicor, and then a company called Roima with their one of their partners provided the actual data transfer, if you will, or from Epicor to our modular WMS product. So that's where we can partner with Epicor and make your lives easier by managing how we pick items. The other advantages to these systems are they're faster. They have pick to light on them, which allows you to, which will tell you, you can see that tray in the middle has a lot of compartments in it. So if I had to bring that tray down and find something, it could take me a while to search that tray to find the right item. We have light directed picking, and we even have laser pointers that'll point to the location you're supposed to pick. So it's very accurate and very quick. So that's the vertical lift module. Probably the one item that we do the most of in the material handling business. In fact, we are the number one modular dealer in the country. Last year, I think we installed 77 machines. This is just another picture of different modular lift configurations. We can bring the tray completely outside the bay, the window, so we can get over the top. If you have heavy items that you want to store in this thing, because we can store up to 1 ton on a tray. So if you have heavy parts, we can store those as well, and use a lifting device to get over the top of the tray to set the item inside the tray. The item to the upper right, that's called a FlexiBot. That's a tote storage system. So everything's stored in totes, and we bring down the totes in a orderly fashion so that when this tray of totes arrives, there's a pick in each one of these totes. So we're not wasting a lot of movement in the machine to get ourselves as many as 9 picks out of that one presentation. Just another picture of these are some more VLMs and people picking. We can also, on the picking side, batch orders and pick multiple orders at a time. Again, we're making the systems more efficient and easier for the operators to pick the parts. It's a labor savings for your company because they're not walking all over the facility looking for parts and pushing carts around. We do get into other types of storage. This happens to be for heavier items, palletized items. So what this is what they call mobile aisle and mobile rack. And it allows you either mechanically, as you can see the hand cranks on the front of the one system on the upper left and the bottom right, or they can be fully automated with electronics and motors and drives to open up the aisle that you want. The idea is you can compress all of your aisles that you had. Let's say you had a rack system with 20 aisles in it. We can break that down to as little as 1 aisle. And all that space that you use with a forklift is now used for storage or to reduce the footprint of how you store the product. It can handle up to 30,000 pounds in a section of rack. Shelving, of course, is going to be lighter, but we have different levels of storage as far as weight capacity goes. We also do other types of vertical storage. On the left is what we call a wire carousel. If you're storing a lot of wire reels on shelving or rack or in a number of locations, we can consolidate that into one vertical storage system that allows you to bring down the wire you're looking for, cut the wire, coil it if you need to, and it's all done in one small location. And we're using, again, the vertical height to make it more efficient from a floor standpoint. The item on the left, that's a sheet metal storage system. And what that does is on the front and the back, it's much like the VLM. It has trays that go into the system that store sheet metal, brings it to the center, brings it down, and then delivers it out to either an operator or a device to lift it off the tray. A lot of times people use pneumatic devices to lift the sheets. These can be placed right next to where you're maybe doing some laser cutting or some forming for the metal, or they can be in a centralized storage system, and then you can deliver the metal to whatever workstation you need. We also do things. Here's a couple other types of storage, automated storage systems. Again, the one on the left is a vertical carousel that is storing parts. Vertical carousel. The difference between a vertical carousel and a VLM is vertical carousel. You have a bunch of shelves, if you will, that are all connected by a chain, and they all move in a vertical, like a vertical carousel, a vertical loop, if you will, and bring the parts to the operator. And we can have picking devices on there, like pick to light and what have you, to help with the actual picking process. On the right side is a tire carousel. It's pretty obvious with the tires. Again, they're showing the front of a sheet metal delivery system and storage system. The one on the right is kind of unique. Those are hospital beds that are stored vertically. It's a real problem for hospitals, especially during the COVID era. They had to have a lot of extra beds because they had to bring in more people than they were accustomed to, and they needed beds for them. They also use them in their maintenance area where they have to maintain the beds, and they take up a lot of space. And this way we can use the vertical heights to store them and bring them to whoever needs to access them. I mentioned robots. Did a system for a dental supply company using robots. These are order to picker. So instead of taking a cart, pushing it throughout a facility to pick an order, we zone the area so that the picker stays in a particular area of the facility, say within 2 rows of shelving instead of maybe 20. And the robots bring the orders to them right to the location they're supposed to pick. It stops and tells you what to pick, and you pick it, press the button, it moves on to its next location for picking. These are great with if you don't want to change your operation, but you want to automate it. This allows you to keep your current storage system, just zone it, and use robots to move materials around so the operators aren't walking miles and miles and miles a day. And they're only walking a short distance, so it's quicker to the part and it's less labor intensive. Here's some other types of robots. You have some that'll move carts around. It comes underneath the cart, connects itself up, takes the cart to where it needs to go. A lot of times used for moving materials from a location that you've assembled. Say you assembled a kit for an assembly. We can take that whole kit and move it straight to the location where you're going to do assembly, and no one has to walk it over there. Again, a labor savings. Again, another one that's just smaller, that stores parts on shelves and then delivers those parts to a location. It could be doing the picking process too, as well as delivering them to the final location. This one's just another form of robot that's moving totes, probably order totes, much like the one you saw on the last slide, which is on the left-hand side here. For heavier items in other applications, we have robots that can move pallets of product. We can move totes. We can move multiple totes. These could be picking totes, and we can actually move shelving systems. In other words, we stack all the shelving systems in one area, and when we need something from it, the robot grabs the whole shelving system, brings it over, and they pick the items that they need off that shelving system. And then the robot returns it to its storage location and grabs another shelving system. First time I saw this, I was like, really, we're going to move a whole shelving system? But these have become very popular. In fact, the original company that designed this concept was bought by Amazon, and Amazon uses these type of systems in a lot of their facilities. But it's not specifically for distribution. It could be for parts for components that you need to deliver for, say you have a Kanban system and you want to deliver totes and return empty totes. That could be a solution for robots. In fact, I'm working on a project just like that right now for an assembly project for assembling chairs. We also have other types of storage systems that are automated. On the top left, that's a picking robot that actually picks things out of totes. The totes get delivered automatically to them, and the robot then knows what to pick out of that tote and puts it in an order tote, if you will, and consolidates what they need for that pick. Again, could be a kitting operation, could be a distribution operation. And you can imagine all of these systems that we have that are automated are going to have some information coming from Epicor, which requires some programming on the Epicor side to organize that data for it. And then it may require some method for transmitting that data between Epicor and the subsystem that's running the automation. The one on the right is a shuttle system that's handling pallets in a rack. This happens to be what they call a 2D shuttle system, which means it's just a deep aisle storage system where we're taking pallets and just stacking deep inside the aisle. That it could be 10, 15 pallets deep. Great for if you're producing something that you're storing a lot of similar product. So you don't want to have selective rack where you've got a lot of aisles. This allows you to deep store the like items and then either bring them in, first out, or bring them or do last in, first out systems. We also have these type of systems that are 4-dimensional, which means these robots can not only go forward and back in the lanes, they can also go left and right, and we can enter them at one point and store them in a big rack system that has several aisles, and then they can store them several pallets deep. On the left here, this is called a rack bot. There are a lot of versions of this out there. We represent a couple of companies that make a tote handling system that the robot goes and grabs the totes, pulls them down, puts them on the bottom level, and then a floor bot, a smaller robot, will pick up that tote and take it to a workstation for picking or processing. This is a sorter. It's basically you put the item on a robot. The robot knows where it needs to go, and it delivers it to the appropriate workstation. There could be a whole line of workstations. You could have 20, 30 different workstations. It can determine which workstation needs to deliver to and deliver the package or the tote to that workstation to be processed. This is another storage and retrieval system. These are horizontal carousels. Again, it's goods to person. We can batch order pick out of this system. And what happens is each one of these are individual horizontal carousels. And when the carousel rotates to the location to be picked from, the doors will open and the lights will indicate which location to pick from. And then you distribute to the actual order, whether it's a box or a tote. And then in the meantime, the other two are rotating and getting in position for the next pick. And these can be very efficient. People are tending to go towards the vertical storage systems because a lot of buildings are going taller and taller just to save space. However, if you have a building that's got, say, under 15 foot, these might be a better solution than a vertical, because vertical is a little bit more expensive, and and you're not getting that much benefit from 15-foot high ceilings. Usually once we get around at least 15 foot or 13 to 15 foot, then we start talking about vertical storage and whether that makes more sense than horizontal. Specialty carts. This is showing a tugger with a man on board, but we can actually have that tugger be robotic. And again, it moves
These are designed for what you're trying to handle. They're showing a number of different, but they can be chained together so that I'm moving a pallet of product someplace, or I've got shelving I want to deliver someplace, or I'm picking items in a zone. I can do that manually with the person on board driving it, or we can automate that with a robot. And of course, manual, I'm still probably using a directed picking or directed operations, which again, we have some information coming from Epicor to tell us what to do. Or if it's robotic, I have a robot management system that will actually get the information from Epicor that needs to be handled, and then it will send that information to the robot and tell the robot what to do and where to go. Conveyor systems and robots, manual robots for automation, could be a system where I'm taking parts that I've produced and I'm packaging them for either the next operation or for distribution. On the left, I'm not sure why this slide was put together like this, but this is just showing a rack system with guarding on the back to protect people from falling product. Again, not everything we do is automated, but a lot of things we do require some interface back and forth with the Epicor system, because we always look at it this way. Even if we have inventory management like in a VLM, we'll be managing all the locations and the part numbers and quantities and all the rest. That is not the master inventory. The master inventory is Epicor, because you're managing things outside of just doing the picking operation. You're managing, when do I have to reorder? When do I have to, what orders do I need to send to pick at what time for manufacturing or for distribution? So there is, even in a more static storage system, there's potential that we're going to have a software system below that's managing, where to go get it and what to pick next. Now, some of that can be handled through Epicor without a need for a third-party software solution, in which case, Coda Bears can probably manage how that gets that information is sent to whatever the system is, or how they're managing putaways and picks out of the operation. Obviously, we do conveyor systems. Conveyor systems, again, a smart conveyor system is going to require that they're scanning barcodes or QR codes and gathering information as to where to go, if it's a sorter or it's just delivering to a workstation of some sort. And it's also sending information back up to Epicor to verify that they've completed a task and delivered something somewhere. Again, some more conveyor systems that we do. And as I said before, we don't sell just modular lifts. We sell all kinds of automation and all kinds of storage systems. And some of the systems we store are static, and some of it's just peripheral and equipment, such as you can see over here. See this guardrail here to protect the conveyors and protect traffic. We also offer that as a part of the system to protect like I said, the equipment, or maybe I'm protecting personnel because there's forklifts around and where they're working is close enough that we want to have them behind a barrier. So we're not limited to just automation. We do a lot of your traditional material storage and retrieval and operations, even workstations and what have you. One of our big customers is United Airlines, and not only did we provide static storage racks, we provided the modular VLMs, we provided conveyor systems. We also provide workstations for their operations, and these are large parts distribution centers.